If you haven't clicked by now, there is a very big difference in the way mainstream media report on press conferences by recording a heap of footage and then produces editing to replay in the expected sponsored government narrative format. Then I'll go with you either switched off mainstream media a while ago, or maybe you simply watch mainstream news for the ad. Most independent media platforms, myself included, we simply can't, as well as we just don't get the notifications to cover breaking news headlines. But what if we could? Well, here's a look at how I'd cover the breaking news headline of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese catching COVID for the second time in the last 9 months. And this story broke yesterday evening. Here we go. In breaking news, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese confirmed the most common adverse reaction to the COVID jab is getting COVID itself. National Cabinet was to meet face-to-face today, ending with a dinner at Kirribilli House, but not anymore. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has COVID again. Late yesterday afternoon, Prime Minister Albanese announced in a tweet after undergoing a routine high cycle rate test kit, it returned a positive result. Imagine that. He further went on to say in his tweet that he'll be isolating at home. Prime Minister Albanese, didn't you tell the Australian people recently that they need to move towards treating COVID more like the flu?
Yes.
Further, Prime Minister, September this year, when asked when you would like to see mandatory isolation end, you said the following.
What we are seeing is gradually a move towards COVID being treated like other health issues.
And 1 month after that, October 14th this year, Prime Minister Albanese made this announcement in relation to isolation requirements.
We have agreed today that we will end, states and territories will end their respective mandatory isolation requirements on the 14th of October.
Last question, Prime Minister. With your announcements, COVID should be treated like the flu. Presenteeism in the workplace with cold and flu-like symptoms is a national pastime. Given you've openly and publicly disclosed your private medical injection status, confirming you've had 4 COVID injections, or as you spin it, you're double boosted, as we have just heard you dispense with isolation requirement, what is your reason for escalating potential fear to the Australian people by tweeting with your second bout of catching COVID that you're isolating?
Sorry, I'm not sure what it is.
Well, that's the end of my breaking news coverage of this story. Unless I go a little further and take a look ABC Media Watch style and dive into a few comments that the PM has made in an attempt to work out what his real messaging is. So I guess I've started this stream, so I may as well go there whilst the camera batteries are charged and the signal's good. So how did we get here? What messaging does the Albanese government really mean when it comes to the pandemic? To set the scene to highlight this, I need to take you back a little. August 2022, and I'll start with this. Former Health Minister Greg Hunt, you were responsible for Australia's COVID injection rollout. I just want to clarify again with you the following point. Will the COVID jab be like the annual flu shot, or will it be a one-off?
They're expecting it to be a multi-year protection. Not necessarily lifetime, but not like the flu where it would be required every year.
So, with the multi-year protection you've just outlined, what is your level of confidence with this injection efficacy given it's so new?
We always have to be aware of the capacity of the virus to mutate, and we have to look at what is called the longevity of the protection with regards to the antibodies that are developed. And the world doesn't know that answer. The world is engaged in the largest clinical trial, the largest global vaccination trial ever.
So with the COVID injections you've purchased with the Australian taxpayers' money, to which you provided indemnity from prosecution and any liability for the pharmaceutical companies if there were any adverse reactions, do you regret, Greg Hunt, signing off on that deal?
That was a matter of great concern.
If it was of great concern, as you've just said, what would you like to say to the Australian people now about that?
Please wear a mask. 1 and 2. Thank you very much.
So there we go. We now know Greg Hunt hasn't been the only politician saying one thing and meaning another. Roll in PM Anthony Albanese. We now have a PM who has the hindsight of the hard life growing up in public housing in Camberdown, as he says a lot, the son of a single mum on a disability pension. So PM, now that you're living the lavish lifestyle in Kirribilli House, will you reflect on your upbringing when considering policies that consider those that still live in Camperdown? What is your message today, Albo, to those people?
I want to seek our common purpose and promote unity and optimism, not fear and division. And certainly, whatever state or territory people are in, they need to get vaccinated. We wanted to send a public safety message that vaccines don't save lives, vaccinations do. We need Australians to get vaccinated. And I think it's a good idea to leave the health advice to the health experts. Yeah. I don't have doctor at the front of my name, and I'll leave it to the doctors to give that advice. Look, I think essential workers who are dealing with vulnerable people in the community should be vaccinated. Well, it is a race against time for us to get the vaccine rollout right and for us to get quarantine right. And what we need to do is to make sure that Australians do get vaccinated. Vaccines don't save life, vaccinations do. And we need to make sure that the public know that this is safe and that this is in the interest of public safety. Lockdowns at great cost have to be imposed. We need to address people's standard of living. Part of that, of course, is housing. One of the things that we will do is increase housing stock. We need to have quarantine facilities in place. We need to use every means at our disposal to maximise the take-up of the vaccines.
You ready?
That's the money shot. There's not a role for government in running every bit of people's lives forever. My view is that we will inevitably follow what has occurred in other parts of the world and rolled out a further booster shot. The flu has existed and health issues have existed for a long period of time, and the government hasn't always stepped in. Vaccines don't save lives, vaccinations do. We wanted to make sure that we have measures which are proportionate and that are targeted. We want to continue to promote vaccinations as being absolutely critical, including people getting booster shots.
His messaging is clear enough, and time will tell just how accurate he is. Because sadly, one thing is for certain, even with Albo's push for a Federal Integrity Commission, we've all seen recently PM Albanese has not backed any of the corruption inquiries holding the state Labor Victorian government to account, despite compelling grounds to do so, and at the very least holding a transparent inquiry. I'm Lindsay from Freedom Media. As I say at the end of all of my streams, to those that have commented, thank you. And I ask that you just don't like it, that you share it as well. Wherever you find yourself, enjoy the rest of your day. Brought to you by Freedom Media WA, where journalism should never be a government narrative.